I'm at the RCMP detachment here in downtown Yellowknife because today I'm going on a foot patrol. I'll be joined by Inspector Byron Donovan, and we're going to be talking about public safety downtown, police presence, and what to expect for this summer. Let's go for a walk.
So knowing some of the pressures and some of the things we hear from the general public is having more officer presence. So now that the nicer weather is here, one thing we started was foot patrols in the downtown core focused on. So daily we're asking our uniformed members to go down, spend some time walking through the community, speaking to members of the public and business owners to sort of like have a better presence, understand that they will see us down more often, and have an interaction with them, and allows them also to identify some concerns that they may have. I think majority of our calls that are in the downtown core are often related to people that are intoxicated or drinking and stuff that comes along with it. That oftentimes comes along with property crime offenses of stuff being stolen. As you see, and you may follow already in social media, people posting about like stolen bicycles, right? It really sort of pops up in the summer months. But also just people openly drinking alcohol while in public is probably one of our major calls in the downtown core.
So when it comes to preserving public safety, then what role is RCMP having? You mentioned that there's outreach that can deal with people with intoxication, but there's also the point that city councilors, the mayors made this to me, that a huge component actually to just making people feel safer downtown is just something, it's foot traffic. It's just more people present downtown. I think you'd probably agree that it's a huge component too. So in this pie, what slice is RCMP? How big is that role in making people just feel safe downtown?
Yeah, I think again it will come to officer presence, right? So seeing us in the downtown core, knowing that we're going to be walking around, hopefully we'll reduce the amount of actual open bottle consumption downtown, and also then allow the people that feel unsafe to know that we are here in the downtown core, and that they know that we'll be around, right, in dealing with this. And whether it be just dumping bottles if someone does have open liquor, or we also have the ability to issue territorial tickets for open alcohol, right? And it's trying to manage it through that process, but also then connecting with our partners, like I said, through the NGO, to try not to criminalize homelessness or addictions at the same time. I think anytime our calls for service during nicer weather does increase, people want to be out, they want to be out in the sunshine, and it doesn't sort of matter what social economic status you're in, you want to be outside when the weather's nice. We do see an increase throughout those warmer months. One thing I would like to highlight though is actually the relationship that we have with the city of Yellowknife and with the government Northwest Territories, where we're doing weekly patrols as a group of us into the encampments. Again, what it does is it familiarizes everyone that is living in the encampments, but also with our, with MED, our local police officers, and government Northwest Territories employees, to have a face and to see who's out in the encampments, and if at times is there anything that we can do to help, support them and also be safe.
There's a gray area in terms of all this too, where it comes to something as basic as loitering. We're going to be approaching the garage to the Northern Heights condo building. It's kind of notorious for having a lot of people frequent inside there. It does make some people uncomfortable, but it's also not necessarily a crime, right? And so as a police officer, I don't know if RCMP ever gets any reports from something like that, but how does it approach those gray areas that are tricky to navigate, but also kind of like one of those crucial components about public safety and making people just feel comfortable?
Yeah, no, for sure, and it is a place that we do get calls for. And again, I spoke about it earlier, right? It's sort of balancing whatever the calls for service, but also what the safety of everyone involved, right? Sometimes people use it for shelter during the winter months. It keeps away from wind. It's a balancing act, and sometimes it might just us attending there and asking people to move along. However, one thing that we're sometimes missing from legislation is there's no trespass act in the territory, and understand that the territorial government is working on one. It's just not currently in place. And same with the City of Yellowknife. City of Yellowknife also doesn't have a trespass bylaw that we can help engage and work alongside their bylaw officers to enforce at times if required, right?
Can you help me understand that more when you're talking about trespassing? Are you saying that a trespassing bylaw would help navigate these sort of gray areas?
I think it would provide us another tool in our toolbox to help request and ask people, and have some legislation that supports us to ask someone to move along from a structure, right? And this would be the example of that location.
If you could summarize then, like in like a sentence or two, what exactly police's responsibility is for downtown, for any of our listeners, readers, watchers, if it's not policing our way out of homelessness, what's the pitch? What is the role here?
Again, I'll bring it back to public safety, having a presence in the downtown core, right? Having a presence alone oftentimes will allow people to maybe make a second choice. I'm not going to consume alcohol in public. I'm not going to get into a fight in public. I'm not going to be intoxicated in public, right? That, I think, increasing our presence will reduce that here. And I think you'll see that. I think when we report our patrols, it's something that will be a positive thing as well, right? And that the business community, the community as a whole, will actually encourage that and appreciate that we are making an effort, we are listening, we are hearing people's concerns, and they'll see us out here doing that.